Welcome back, Vishnu. So today we're going to
Thanks,
discuss
Mani.
about today we'll discuss about how to apply for data science jobs. Both of us
Sure.
have this experience. We have
Yes.
already spent more than 10 years in this industry, but I think it will be very good for our viewers to know how they can apply for data science job. Um, there are freshers fresh out of universities, and there are people uh, who have got experience in other fields. For example, many have experience in IT, um, programming, or manufacturing experience. How they can get into data science, right?
Yes.
So I think this session will be very useful to them, right?
Yes, definitely.
So we will share our experience, right? When we entered
Yeah.
this industry 10 years back, but we'll also talk about the changes that have happened in these 10 years.
Sure.
Right. So we will touch upon all these, aspects, right?
Yes.
So I will ask you this question, Vishnu. How do you hire, right? In your company, what is the hiring process? How do you hire the freshers? Or not necessarily in your current company, but maybe in the previous company. What exactly was the hiring process? How do you hire? If someone approaches you for a job, right? He has no experience in data science. He has learned some of the things on his own from YouTube or from Udemy or from Coursera. Uh, will you consider him as a potential candidate? Will you go for the interview, or what exactly was the hiring process and how it has changed over time, right? Because I'm sure it has changed, right? I'll share my
Yes.
experience, but I
So,
will start from you. Yeah.
hmm, yeah, sure. So I think as far as the interview part is there, right?
Mm.
As a manager, right, when we have to hire candidates, so generally what happens for a role, right? You will be getting some 10 to 12, let's say, resume, and there will be some keywords which you are looking for that particular role. So, for example, in my team, if I have to hire someone, definitely, there is a requirement of SAS still.
Okay.
But even if you have the Python, both work basically. Either SAS or Python, both works. And then you need to have some basic understanding about the financial, market, right? You have the understanding of the banking. If you have worked in the banking industry, it's well and good. That will be added advantage for you, given
Right.
that my team is primarily responsible for, developing the scorecard model. So if you are
Right.
coming from that background, helps, right?
Right.
I'll
Right.
not have to hold you in many of the scenarios. So you
Right.
will be really good in that case. But even if you are not coming from the financial background, let's say from different background, and
Yeah.
you still hold this, the technical know-how, like
Right.
how to develop a regression model or logistic regression. I mean, the basic of these technologies, and also about the technical aspect, like you have worked with Python and SAS, then I'll
Mm-hmm.
be absolutely open to hire you, right? At least
Right.
for the interview process, I will try to judge your understanding about these things before actually rejecting at the application level itself. So for me, I think this is the basic thing. When we actually look at the resume, right, the only
Mm-hmm.
main thing about whether forwarding that candidate to the next level or not, it happens post discussion.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is where the major decisions are taken. Whatever you have written in resume plays only a role to the point that your resume gets shortlisted. Once you are shortlisted, the real judgment happen at the time of interview.
Right.
And the way I think the people should know that if you are writing too many fake things which you don't have understanding about
Mm-hmm.
just to
Yeah.
get your resume selected, it does
Right.
have a very negative impact
Yeah.
because
Many
the
people do that
interviewer,
actually.
yes,
Mistake.
yes. So the bad thing about this habit is that the interviewer comes with a very high expectation from you since you have
Right.
written so many things.
Right.
So even if you are not able to, answer about 20 to 30% of what you have written, the
Right.
resume, it becomes a really big frustrating for the interviewer. And even, he actually feels like he has been cheated kind of thing, right? And he will
Right.
not hire you. Definitely he will not hire you. So at least
Yes.
you should
Yes.
just yourself, at least 50%. I know 90% of the people write something which they have not been directly involved in doing something, but if they have understanding about what they have written, even if they have not done it, I think it is perfectly fine. Interviewer is
Yeah.
not going to ask you to do it in front of him, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Agree.
if you have the understanding about it, even if you don't have understanding, please get it right before you actually
Right.
come to the interview. So that's the thing. And the how much eager a candidate is, how open to learn the candidate is, that plays a really big role. So I'll give you one small example. Recently, I had
Yeah.
hired a candidate,
Mhm.
and we were two-person, interviewing him. The other person was asking mainly around the mathematical, statistical, model related stuff. And my focus was totally around the language part. So I was asking a
Right.
lot of questions from Python.
Okay.
And that guy was not from the Python background. Obviously, he didn't
Right.
answer any of the questions. So then I
Mhm.
asked few SAS related question. Let's say I asked three, he answered just one, two. Obviously, people get very tense during the
Right.
interview. So I don't expect them to answer all of the questions.
Right.
But the other person who was asking the statics and math related question, and remember, this guy was from IIT Bombay, math.
Right.
He has done masters in mathematics, so
Right.
obviously he was
Okay.
a very high. I had a very
Good
high
guy, but
expectation for
probably
him.
wasn't very
Yes.
familiar to program. Okay.
Yes. So what happened next? He didn't answer any of the statistical questions which was asked to him.
Okay.
And this is frustrating for us that the guy who is having the degree from IIT Bombay, how can he not ask even a basic probability question?
All right.
But that's the point. The point is that at the time of interview, and he was a new guy. He had
Mhm.
just done work with Kotak Mahindra Bank, and he had
Yeah.
moved to this new organization. I mean, in our organization, he was interviewing. So obviously, he was little tense. We understood his situation, and eventually we ended up hiring him. You know the
Okay.
why? Because he was very, very positive about
Mhm.
taking, learning from mistake, and his behavior was very positive. Open to
Okay.
learn kind of thing. I think
Okay.
these things play a huge role in manager's
Right.
mind. So when going for interview, you have to be very, very cooperative. You should not be adamant. If something
Right.
is going wrong, don't know, or you are saying something wrong, and you are being adamant. No, no, no. This is the correct
Right.
answer. I have read it.
Right.
So you should be open. You should be,
Should be
little
open-minded.
flexible. Yes, yes. I think these roles. So, Pani, I will say that the behavioral part plays, I
It's
think,
very
50 to
important.
60
Yeah. I
than
totally
the
agree with
technical
you.
part.
Yeah.
Yes.
So if I have to summarize,
Yes,
then
yes,
the first thing you said is that your CV should have the keywords, right?
yes, definitely. Yeah,
Uh,
to move to next level. Yes,
First thing. Second thing, you should not write fake things on your CV.
yes,
I think that's a
yes,
very
yes,
bad thing. I have also
yes,
come across many CVs where people write so many wrong things that they haven't done, and when you talk to them, they can't explain
yes,
properly, right? Marketing yourself is very good. Actually, you should do that,
yeah.
right? You should write in a
Mm.
language that it shows that you really have done things, and in a way that you yourself know everything. But you should be very prepared for that, right? But
Correct.
you should
Yes,
not write
yes,
something totally different from what you have done,
totally
or
different.
right,
Yes,
which is nothing but fake. Okay, that's very
yes, yes.
difficult because even if you are very smart, you won't be able to
Mm.
respond to the basic questions in an
Yes.
interview if you haven't done that, right?
Mm.
So that's second thing. And third thing you mentioned is about being positive, being open-minded, being willing to learn
Yes,
new things, right?
yes,
Those things are very important. Also, I would like to add one more thing, which is to say that come prepared, do some research. Actually,
yes,
it goes without saying,
definitely.
for any job you
Mm.
should go with some sort of a preparation, but
Yes,
particularly for data science, which is very academic type, right, job,
yes,
especially. So you mentioned about working as a data scientist in banking and knowing financial market, etc., etc. So the data science jobs in banking is very academic type, right? You need to know statistics very well at a very theoretical level. Also, it's not like just knowing the names of algorithms, but you should also have some
yes,
level of understanding, right? The basic understanding. It could be very simple thing like you should know hypothesis testing very well. You should know regression
yes.
modeling, the philosophy,
P-value,
ordinary least
degree
squares,
of freedom. Yes,
degree of freedom,
yes,
p-value, maximum likelihood estimation. These things you should know, right? Uh,
yes.
right. If you do not know neural network, that's still fine,
Yeah, that's
right?
mm.
But you should know these things. And you should have familiarity with programming, right? You should know how to,
Yes.
write a loop, conditional statements. You should have the basic idea of how to write
Basic
computer
understanding. Yes,
programs,
definitely.
right?
Mm.
These are
Mm.
bare minimum.
Yes. Good.
And more than that, actually, you should also have some understanding of the banking and financial world, right? And
Yes. Yes.
in
Very
my
much so. Yes.
experience, I have hired PhDs, I have hired people with heavy technical background, masters in engineering, master in physics, those subjects. But one thing I have seen, especially in Europe, actually, is that they are very good in mathematics and programming, but when they come for interview, uh, they have no clue about what exactly is this job about. So they have no clue about that. They come without preparation, right? If you
Okay.
come from a market risk modeling department, you should first know what exactly is market risk. Right?
What
That's very
exactly is
easy
that?
to know.
Yeah.
You just read something
Hmm.
on the Wikipedia, you will get to know what is market risk, right?
Yes.
Just watch some movies related to financial market. There are many movies, many documentaries freely available on YouTube, right? You can go through them just to have an idea of what exactly it is. So understanding of the domain or the business area
Yes.
to some extent is a big positive thing, actually. When if you can say some of the things in the interview, that will give a very good impression to the interviewer that you have interest in understanding business problem, actually. So that's
Correct.
quite important, especially in banking, financial, insurance, trading, those areas, but even other areas nowadays, right? If
Yes.
you want to work in e-commerce, right? You should have some understanding of how e-commerce, I mean, what are the problems in e-commerce, right? If you have done some
Correct.
research, you have gone through some videos on YouTube, you have read some of the blogs on these topics, it will give a very good impression in the interview, right?
Yes.
So those
Yes.
things are
Definitely.
also super important in my view.
Yes, so Pani, I think let me also mention few cases which are actually related to my own interview process, right?
Mhm.
When I went, apply for a job change and I was interviewed, what are the mistake I did, which
Yeah,
I should have not done. I think it will also be a good learning for our viewers to actually avoid those kind of mistakes.
right.
So what happened, Pani? Recently I was being interviewed for one of the startups. Okay, and they had this requirement that the guys should know Python because they didn't have SAS. Okay,
Mhm.
so all the models needs to be developed in Python. So obviously, deep understanding of Python language was required, especially the data science packages like sklearn and other stats model and everything. And I had basic understanding. But what happened is that when the interviewer started the first question, he asked me this question, which was very different kind of question. Generally, you don't get this question. He asked me, how do you connect your Python to database? So
Mhm.
I have this a big data platform, right? Hadoop platform. So he was asking me exact code, how, a connection string actually. How
Mhm.
are you going to connect your Python, a Jupyter notebook to the Hadoop platform?
Yeah.
And remember what happens many times we actually don't remember the string, we just
Mhm.
copy paste it. We get it
Right.
from someone in the team and we don't
Yeah.
try to remember what
Mhm.
methodology and what are the parameter it is asking you, right? It generally asks for the server name and then it
Yeah, yeah.
also asks for, I think, few other things.
The database
But
connection.
drivers, yes,
Yeah.
driver name, server name, and all those details is asked.
Yeah.
But I had not given much of attention to that part, and it actually, became a big issue for me because he kept on asking this question so many times, and somehow the mistake which I made was I became little adamant. In the sense that this is not required. When you join a new job, you get this information from your, other team members. You don't have to
Yeah.
remember the server.
Yeah.
But the mistake I did was I should have remembered the parameter. The server
Yeah.
will come from the other guy in the team. At least
Right.
I should
Right.
know what parameter it requires. It requires username, password, the server name and the driver name. All those things I was not aware. And what library, what package it requires you to write that syntax, I also didn't have the clue. Okay. So
Mhm.
it became a big problem, and he kept on dragging and asking the same question for half an hour. Remember,
Okay.
so in a different way.
Okay.
And my attitude of being, so adamant, not being flexible, not accepting that I'm making mistake, it,
Mhm.
became a big problem. And
Yeah. Yeah.
remember, it was the fifth round of interview, final
Fifth.
interview. And
Fifth.
yes, fifth
Yeah.
round, yes, I had
Yeah.
already cleared 4 rounds. I was very confident that I'm going to get selected in this role.
Mhm.
But it didn't happen. because of this, attitude which I found there, I
Yeah.
was not flexible. So I think it's a good learning for me and also for our viewers that, when you are going in the interview, please be flexible. Please be,
Mm.
keep smiling, be open mind, be cool. Because
Mhm.
interviewer actually try to judge your temperament. Whether you
Right.
get frustrated asking the same question again and again. And it
Right. Right.
happens with most of the people. They get frustrated
Right.
because
Right.
generally data science domain people have this habit of being introvert, right? They don't actually,
Right. Right.
they are super talented kind of people,
Yeah.
they are
Yeah. Yeah.
not the people doing the same thing again and again. So they
The
have this
nerds.
ego mindset. Yes, ego mindset that okay, how can I be wrong? I have
Yeah.
done
Yeah.
this hundred of times. But
Yeah.
remember, one thing can be done into 100 different ways. So you are doing
Yeah.
it one way, the other person might be saying the same thing but in different way. So that can
Yeah.
also be true. You should
Right.
be open, basically, not to accept whatever solution the interviewer is trying to suggest you. Even he is poking you, you have to be cool and calm, to move to the next level. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I totally agree. Let's talk a bit about the application process, right? I will
sure.
share my experience
Yes.
from my experience in Europe, and I would like to hear from you about what the situation now in India. Okay,
Yes.
so in Europe, actually, for most of these big banks or big corporations, they have these entry level programs where
Okay.
uh, they want to get fresh people, fresh masters, fresh PhD people, and train them
Mhm.
as data scientist. Okay, or
Okay.
software engineer. Okay, so they have programs for each and every area, and so
Yes.
easier. So if you are a fresher, right, fresh PhD graduate or a fresh
Mhm.
masters, you will not have a lot of problem actually finding a job here as a data
Mhm.
scientist. Okay, because every year companies hire these freshers. Okay,
Yes.
if you're an
Mhm.
experienced person, that's not an issue. You have a LinkedIn profile. Many
Mhm.
people will call you for jobs, right? So
Correct.
it's
Yes.
much easier for you. But if you are fresh out of university, it is a nightmare,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
To get a interview call, actually, especially in some countries. I know in India, actually, it is a problem
Mhm.
for people who have come from not so popular universities, right? Where
Correct.
there is
Yes.
no
Very
campus
different.
placement, for example, right?
Correct. Yes.
Whereas in
Mhm.
Europe, there is no concept of campus placement. Well, there is some, but it's not as good as, let's say, in India. So it
Mhm.
doesn't matter whether you go to London School of Economics or you go to some local college in London. Both
Okay.
have to apply for the job, right?
Mhm.
So, and that's also there in other countries in Europe where, yeah, you finish your study, you apply for a job, right?
Mhm.
The problem is less for the locals because, they can wait for 6 months, for example,
Mhm.
for a job,
Yeah.
whereas the ones who actually come from abroad, they have
Mhm.
restriction on the visa. They have restriction on how long they can stay with that visa in
Correct.
a
Yep.
particular country. So they need to get a job at the earliest, right? And that's an issue actually for many. If you cannot find a job within certain period, then you will have to leave. In the UK, it used to be within 3 months. Now, if you want to get a job within 3 months of completion of your post graduation,
Mhm.
that's a humongous task. That's it is insanely difficult thing to do actually, because companies normally take a lot of time uh, for yeah, to shortlist people and then call them for first round of interview, and then there'll be, yeah, a couple of weeks of gap, second round, third round, then visa approval process, work permit. That takes a hell lot of time, and as a result of which many expats, right, people who come to these countries for studies, they miss out on opportunity and then they have to go back to the home country. So for them, what is
Mhm.
advisable is that they go for internship, because that's where you can impress people the most. While you are doing
Mhm.
your master's or PhD, go for an
Mhm.
internship, right? You still have
Mhm.
your study visa, go for an internship, build connection there. At the end of the
Mhm.
internship, it's quite likely that you will receive an offer. If you're
You'll be
good,
getting a
you will
job.
definitely, yeah, you will getting a job,
Mhm.
and well before the
Mhm.
completion of your study, you will have a job already, right?
Mhm.
So that is
Mhm.
highly recommended.
Correct.
However, if you are local, I think it is much easier in this country to get an entry level job.
Mhm.
Okay. I'd like to hear from you what's happening in India. What's the situation now?
So, are you asking about, the fresher guy or the
Yeah,
experienced guy?
primarily for freshers. For experience, I know
Hmm.
it's quite easy actually, because you have a couple of 3 years
Yeah.
of experience. You have a LinkedIn
Yes.
profile, right? On
Mhm.
LinkedIn, you can apply yourself, because most of the jobs I have come across on LinkedIn are for experienced candidates.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
Rarely you
Yes.
will come across jobs for freshers, right? And that becomes a trouble,
Okay.
right? You have done all kinds of courses, you have done certifications from good places, but how do you land up in a first job, right? Because
Yeah.
there is no advertisement as such in India. In other countries, in US and in many other countries in Europe also, there are jobs um, for freshers. Like you will find jobs which are only for freshers, but that's not the case in India, right? The fresher hiring is through the campus. The companies would go to IITs or IIMs or in top schools in economics, top schools in statistics, NITs, other top engineering colleges to hire people there from there. But what about the one, for example, someone from Patna University, someone from Madras University, Utkal
Correct.
University,
Mhm.
even Delhi University or Banaras University, where companies normally do not go there for hiring. How they get the first job? Uh,
Yeah. So, Pani, I think as you said, yeah, it's difficult actually, in one word, if I have to say, it's difficult. But you can get it, okay? So there are a couple of things which you have to do. First is that, you need to have a LinkedIn profile for sure, okay? And you
yes,
have to be very active on that. You have to keep
yes,
updating whatever new things you are learning. And especially the certification part, okay? If you have not got the job directly from your college, then
yeah,
it is very much required that you at least get some kind of certification. And
yeah,
in today's scenario, I think it will be much better if you can get a certification in Python with data science or normal data science. So these catchy words actually really attracts a lot the HR guys. Okay, so and also nowadays, if you will see the hiring market, most of the jobs are actually coming from the HR consultancy companies. In last, I think 5 6 years, it was there at that time also in 2000, I think 15 when I switched for the first time. Most of the jobs were coming from the HR consultancies, right? Not directly from the company which is hiring for that role. So nowadays, as you are getting the uh, openings, they try to hire some consultancy company, HR consultancy, and they will be actually advertising that role under their banner, not from the company for which they are hiring. Okay,
yeah,
and they will be like a search engine for you. Okay, and they will be very active on LinkedIn, very active on IM Jobs, and Naukri.com and all those platforms, and they will be bringing the candidates, and then they will be forwarding it. So what I'm saying is that there was a time when I used to find a job on Naukri.com. Okay, but
yeah,
for the last I think 6 7 years, I have not done that because Naukri.com is very it doesn't have good quality jobs for data science, okay, which you are looking. So what happens there most of
so
the time
LinkedIn
I
has
find job.
killed Naukri
Yes,
in India.
yes. So
Let's
LinkedIn is the most suitable place for you to find a job if you have experience actually. But if you are a newcomer, I think so in terms of number of vacancies, it will always be the case that Naukri.com has a huge, vacancies. Okay, there will be a lot of job openings there. But LinkedIn is very limited. Okay, you have to follow certain HR, then they will be posting, and generally HR are very specific. They will be posting, one HR will be posting only about the data science role, one HR will
yeah,
be posting only about the retail kind of job or Java
that's true.
specific. So you have to follow a specific people on LinkedIn to get the required kind of job advertisement along your profile.
Right.
So my suggestion is that if you are a newcomer, I think you should be active on LinkedIn because LinkedIn
Yeah,
also has some kind of if you search by freshers job hashtags freshers job, you will get a lot of pages where they'll be keep posting fresher related job.
yeah,
And it will also be very active on Naukri because the number of job openings are huge on Naukri.
yeah, yeah,
And then if you are looking very, very, sophisticated kind of job, the high in jobs, then I think you should also have a profile on IM jobs.
Yeah.
Sometimes people get confused that since the app name is IM job, so they might be offering only jobs to the IM, but that's not the case. It's just the company name. So you can register, you can create your profile, and you can definitely get a call and you can
Right,
get
right,
hired. So
right.
that should not be confusing to people. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I will add a bit more to that actually. If you are a
Sure.
fresher in India, right,
Mhm.
from a college or university where there is no campus placement, companies do not come there to hire students. What you could do in that case is that you connect with the people who are already working and ask them directly on
Yeah.
LinkedIn to refer you. I think that really helps. You can write
Yes.
cold emails
Especially if
or
people are from your college, okay, seniors
yeah,
from your college.
seniors
Yes.
from
Yes.
your college preferably, because I think in most, regardless of whether there is campus placement or not, I think most university, colleges, schools, they now have WhatsApp groups, Facebook pages,
Yes.
Facebook groups, right? So there is some
Mhm.
level of even in like tiny towns and cities in India, even their
Mhm.
colleges have now got digital presence. They're present on Twitter and they have a Facebook page. It's very good to see that, because when you have that, right, you can directly go there and post that, okay, I'm someone with a master's degree in mathematics,
Correct.
I know
Correct.
Python, I know machine learning, I know
Mhm.
SQL, I'm looking for a job, could you please help me, right?
Mhm.
That really works actually. So it's always
Yeah.
good to
So
connect with your
Pani,
seniors,
actually, yes.
and not just
I
your
just wanted
seniors,
to
but
add one thing, Pani, here. I know what happens. I get a lot of messages from the freshers who are looking for a job join, and not sometimes even from people who have certain experience. Okay,
yeah.
and sometimes I feel that the people's language is not that very requesting kind of. They will be
Right.
very rude kind of. So it should be. Man, you are going to ask for a job referral. You should have at least some kind of manner, right? How you have to
Right.
write that message. And
Right.
somehow you will so interesting that even if you didn't want it to forward it to HR, you end up doing that because the kind of language they use, right? So
Yeah, yeah.
language is very important. If you're
So to be
asking
very
someone
polite
referral,
when you're asking
yes,
for
you should
help.
be very polite. Yes. And you should not use some kind of you're giving order to someone that please therefore there is the opening. It doesn't work. So the language is important, guys, because you are interacting to a person for the first time. You have not talked to that person anywhere. You were just coming through his LinkedIn profile and suddenly asking for the referral. So at least you should maintain some kind of,
Yeah,
decorum
yeah.
there.
That's right,
Very
right.
nice, nice
Yeah,
words. So that,
yeah,
he get impressed and he actually put that extra effort to forward your resume.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think another point I would like to add here is that in India things have changed now. Yeah, in the earlier days there was hardly any concept of internship. Actually, internship was a thing only for people doing MBAs in IIMs and top B schools. So things have changed so much in the
Correct.
last 5, 6, 7 years or last 10 years, let's say. Right?
Mm.
You can easily find an internship opportunity in startups actually, because startups
Mm.
need people. They cannot pay you a lot. They cannot pay employees a lot. So they don't have many full-time employees. So there you can intern, right? If you are
Mm.
reaching out to people from startups, I think they should be willing to hire you, because anyway they're not going to pay you much. So it's
Mm.
good for them.
Correct.
So
Yes.
it's a win-win
Yes.
actually. You get some
Yes.
experience
Of course.
and they
Mm.
get your time, and yeah, they get your
Time and
time and
yeah.
they get you to work.
Yeah.
So that really
Yes.
works. That's another way.
Mm.
There are other ways also.
Mm.
For example, right, what I have heard is that if you are maintaining a blog or something, right, you're whatever you're learning, you are putting that
Mm.
online, making
Yes.
YouTube videos or getting some experience, right, and
Mm.
posting regularly on, or let's say on LinkedIn, where people are even
Mm.
following you, right.
Mm.
It really helps, because once you complete
Yes.
your degree, right,
Mm.
just inform everyone that, okay, my course is over, I'm now
Yes.
in the job market, so right, so there you will get opportunity. So there are very
Correct.
non-unconventional way of also getting this opportunity, right. I think
Mm.
there's another important point to discuss here, which is that there are people who come from other backgrounds, like
Mm.
people working in IT. I know people who have experience in, let's say, database management system, DBMS, okay,
Correct.
or
Mm.
people
Mm.
which technically is also analytics because you are working on the data side, but there's hardly any analytics as such. But yeah,
Yeah.
you are working on one side of it, right? Which is about managing data and storing data, querying data, but not analyzing the data. But these are the people who are also interested to move to the second side, the other side of it, which is to analyze the data. And recently, I
Mhm.
came across someone who told me that I have experience in SaaS data management, SaaS and SQL
Mhm.
for 5 years, and I have no idea about risk management or banking
Mhm.
or modeling in risk management, but
Mhm.
I am interested actually. Okay,
Mhm.
so he learned a
Mhm.
bit of modeling,
Mhm.
and he managed to get a job in a big four company. Actually, he managed to get multiple offer, by the way. He managed to get an offer from EY, from KPMG, I think also from JP Morgan. I think he also got an offer from a startup fintech firm in India.
Mhm.
So you can leverage on your previous experience, whether it's software development, whether it's database management system, whether it's yeah, business analysis, whatever you have been working on for a number of years, and then you can learn things, you can do certification, and then, but I think it's very important to be honest about it, is right. People fake a lot
Yeah.
on CV. I think that's not recommended. uh,
Yes.
I wouldn't recommend anyone doing that. I think it's good to be a bit honest about it, but at the same time, if you're willing to learn and you are able to impress yeah, your interviewer that okay, I have learned such and such things over time and I'm willing to learn more, I think that should not be a problem, right? Because it's still a nascent field, it's still growing. So I think people should be able to shouldn't have problem in giving you opportunity. All right.
Yes.